They say high school shapes you, but I never imagined it would reshape my entire understanding of love, hate, and everything in between. My name is Alex, and this is the story of how my worst enemy became the person I couldn't live without. Grab some tissues. This is going to be an emotional roller coaster.
Chapter 1. The Storm Before the Calm.
The hallways of Westfield High were my personal hell, and Mason Torres was the devil himself. Every morning, I'd wake up with a knot in my stomach, knowing I'd have to face him. 6 feet of pure athletic perfection, with dark hair that always looked effortlessly messy and eyes the color of warm honey that could cut right through you. He was a captain of the basketball team, straight A student despite what everyone thought, and apparently the guy who had decided that making my life miserable was his favorite hobby. But let me back up. This story doesn't start with hate. It starts with a moment that changed everything. It was a Tuesday morning in September, and I was running late because my alarm didn't go off. I rushed through the hallways, my backpack bouncing against my hip, tried to make it to first period before the bell rang. That's when I saw him. Mason was standing by his locker, and he wasn't alone. Jenny Morrison, the sweetest girl in our sophomore class, was pressed against the lockers, tears streaming down her face. 3 of Mason's teammates surrounded them, laughing as Mason held what looked like Jenny's diary. "Please," Jenny was saying, her voice breaking, "please just give it back." "What's this entry about Tommy Chun?" Mason read aloud, his voice carrying down the hallway. "Dear Diary, I think Tommy is so cute, but I'm too scared to talk to him because..." That's when I snapped. I don't know what came over me. Maybe it was seeing Jenny's face, or maybe I was just tired of watching Mason hurt people. Before I could think twice, I marched over and snatched the diary from his hands. "That's enough," I said, surprised at myself at how steady my voice sounded. The hallway went quiet. Mason's teammates stopped laughing. Jenny looked at me with wide, grateful eyes, and Mason was staring at me like he'd never seen me before. "Give it back, Thompson," Mason said, his voice low and dangerous. "No," I replied, handing the diary to Jenny. She said, "Please, learn some manners." For a moment, I thought he might actually hit me. His jaw clenched, his hands curled into fists, and something dark flashed in his eyes. But then Jenny whispered, "Thank you," and hurried away, and the moment passed. "You just made a big mistake," Mason said quietly, so only I could hear. "Wouldn't be my first," I replied, trying to sound braver than I felt. That's when the real bullying began. For the next 3 years, Mason Torres made it his personal mission to remind me of that moment, push me into lockers, knock my books out of my hands, make jokes about my clothes, my grades, my everything. His friends thought it was hilarious. The teachers never seemed to notice. And I just endured it. But here's the thing about bullies. Sometimes they reveal more about themselves than they mean to. Mason never went too far. He never actually hurt me physically, never destroyed my property, never did anything that would get him in serious trouble. It was always just enough to humiliate me, to remind me of my place in the social hierarchy, but never enough to cause real damage. And sometimes, when his friends weren't around, I'd catch him looking at me with an expression I couldn't quite decipher. Not cruel, not mocking, just curious, like he was trying to figure something out. "You're different from other people," he said to me once, after he'd accidentally bumped into me in the hallway, causing me to drop my chemistry homework. "Different how?" I asked, kneeling to gather my papers. He knelt down too, helping me collect them, which was so unexpected I nearly fell over. "I don't know," he said quietly. "Just different." Then his friends appeared, and the moment was gone. He stood up, stepped on one of my papers, and walked away laughing. But I remember that moment, the gentleness in his voice, the way his fingers had brushed mine when he handed me my papers. It confused me more than all his cruelty combined. Junior year was when things got complicated. I was sitting alone in the cafeteria, reading a book and eating my sandwich when Mason appeared. But this time he was alone. "Can I sit?" he asked, gesturing to the empty chair across from me. I looked around, wondering if this was some elaborate setup for another humiliation. "Where are your friends?" "Away game," he said, sliding into the chair without waiting for my permission. Basketball team left at lunch. We sat in uncomfortable silence for a few minutes. I pretended to read while he picked at a bag of chips. "Good book?" he asked finally. I glanced up, suspicious. "You care?" "Maybe." I studied his face, looking for signs of mockery, but found none. It's about a kid who thinks he's ordinary, but finds out he has magic powers. "Sounds familiar," Mason said with a small smile. "Harry Potter is not that original a concept," I replied, then immediately regretted engaging with him. "Not what I meant," he said, his eyes meeting mine. "Sometimes people are more than they appear to be." There was something in his tone that made my chest tight. "What's that supposed to mean?" "Nothing," he said quickly, standing up. "Forget I said anything." But as he walked away, I heard him mutter something that sounded like, "I wish I was brave enough." That night, I couldn't stop thinking about it. What did Mason Torres have to be brave about? He was popular, successful, seemingly confident in everything he did. What could possibly scare someone like him? The answer came 2 weeks later, in the most unexpected way possible. I was staying late at school to work on a project in the computer lab when I heard voices from the hallway. Loud voices, arguing. "I don't care what your excuse is," a man's voice was saying. "Your grades are unacceptable." "Dad, I'm trying." "Trying isn't good enough. Do you want to end up like your brother, working construction for the rest of your life because he couldn't get his act together?" I recognized the second voice. It was Mason. "Basketball isn't going to pay for college," the man continued. "You need academic scholarships, which means you need perfect grades. Not B's, not even A minuses. Perfect. I know, no excuses. Figure out, or I'll pull you from the team entirely." Footsteps echoed down the hallway, and then everything went quiet. I sat there for a long moment, processing what I'd heard. Mason Torres, the guy I thought had everything handed to him, was struggling. His father was putting enormous pressure on him, threatening to take away the thing he loved most. When I finally gathered my things and headed for the exit, I found Mason sitting on the steps outside, his head in his hands. He looked up when he heard my footsteps, and I saw something I'd never seen before. Mason Torres looking completely defeated. "Great," he muttered. "Just what I needed." "Are you okay?" I asked, the words slipping out before I could stop them. He laughed bitterly. "Do I look okay?" I sat down beside him, keeping a careful distance. "Want to talk about it?" Why would you care? It was a fair question. After 3 years of torment, why would I care about his problems? Because, I said slowly, maybe I understand what it's like to feel like you're not good enough. He looked at me then, really looked at me, and something shifted between us. "My dad thinks I'm going to be a failure," he said quietly. "Says basketball is a waste of time if I can't keep my grades up." "What are your grades?" "Mostly B's. A few C's in the harder classes." He laughed again. "Guess I'm not as smart as everyone thinks." "B's and C's aren't bad grades, Mason. They are in my house." He ran his hands through his hair. "My older brother Danny dropped out senior year. Dad's never forgiven him for it. Says I'm going down the same path." I thought about the Mason I knew, confident, popular, seemingly perfect. It was hard to reconcile that image with the broken boy sitting beside me. "You're not your brother," I said. "How would you know?" "Because," I said, "your brother never stood up for Jenny Morrison." Mason went very still. "What?" "Freshman year. You stopped those guys from reading her diary out loud. You could have just walked away, but you didn't. I was the one reading her diary," Mason said quietly. "But you stopped when you saw how much it was hurting her." He was quiet for a long moment. "I was horrible to you after that." "Yeah," I agreed. "You were? Why didn't you ever tell anyone?" "About the bullying, I mean." I shrugged. What was the point? Who would believe me? And even if they did, it would just make things worse. "I'm sorry," he said suddenly, his voice thick with emotion. "Alex, I'm so sorry." It was the first time he'd ever used my first name. "Why?" I asked. "Why me? Why did you single me out?" Mason was quiet for so long, I thought he wasn't going to answer. Then, So softly I almost missed it. He said, "Because you were everything I wanted to be." "What do you mean?" "Smart without trying. Kind to people who didn't deserve it. Brave enough to stand up for what's right." He looked at me with those honey-colored eyes. "You made it look so easy to be good." "It's not easy," I said. "No," he agreed. "But you do it anyway. And I took my frustration out on you because I didn't know how else to handle feeling inadequate." We sat there as the sun set, talking in a way we'd never talked before. Mason told me about the pressure from his father, about feeling like he was never good enough, about being afraid that without basketball, he was nothing. I told him about feeling invisible most of the time, about how his bullying had made school feel like a prison, but also about how I'd seen glimpses of kindness in him that made me think there was more to his story. "I want to be better," he said as we finally stood to leave. "I want to be the person you saw when you stood up for Jenny." "You already are that person," I said. "You just need to let him out more often." As we walked to the parking lot together, Mason suddenly stopped. "Alex," he said, would you maybe help me?" "With my grades. I know I don't deserve it after everything I've done, but—" "Yes," I said before he could finish. "Yes, I'll help you." The smile that spread across his face was brilliant, transforming him completely. For the first time, I saw Mason Torres without his armor, and he was beautiful.
Chapter 2. The Walls Come Down.
"Thank you," Mason said quietly as we stood by our cars. "Really, thank you. Don't thank me yet," I replied, trying to sound casual despite the butterflies in my stomach. "Wait until you see how much work this is going to be." He laughed, and the sound was different from his usual mocking laughter. Genuine, warm. "I'm not afraid of hard work." "We'll see about that." We made plans to meet at the library the next day after school. As I drove home, I couldn't stop thinking about the conversation we'd had. This vulnerable, uncertain boy was so different from the confident bully I thought I knew. Which one was the real Mason? The library was nearly empty when I arrived the next afternoon. Mason was already there, slumped in a chair with his history textbook open in front of him. He looked frustrated, running his hands through his hair as he stared at the pages like they were written in a foreign language. "How long have you been here?" I asked, settling into the chair across from him. "About an hour," he said without looking up. "I've read this same page 15 times, and I still don't understand what happened at Gettysburg." I couldn't help but smile. It's not that complicated once you break it down. For the next 2 hours, something magical happened. The Mason who terrorized me in the hallways disappeared, replaced by someone who actually listened when I explained the causes of the Civil War. Someone who asked genuine questions, and even cracked a few jokes that weren't at my expense. "You're actually really good at this," he said as I helped him organize his thoughts for his essay. "Teaching. Thanks," I said, trying not to blush at the compliment. "No, seriously. You make it make sense in a way my teachers never do." He looked up from his notes. "Why are you being so nice to me?" It was a fair question, and one I've been asking myself. "Because," I said carefully, "I think there's more to you than the person you pretend to be at school." "What if there's not?" he asked quietly. "What if the jerk is who I really am?" "Then you wouldn't be here, asking for help," I replied. "And you wouldn't have apologized yesterday." He was quiet for a moment, then, "I meant it, the apology." "I know." "How do you know?" I met his eyes. "Because you looked scared when you said it. Real apologies are scary." Something shifted in his expression. "You see too much. Maybe you don't hide as well as you think you do." Our tutoring sessions became a regular thing. 3 times a week, Monday, Wednesday, and Friday, we'd meet in the library. At first, it was strictly academic. I'd help him with his essays, explain math concepts, quiz him for tests. But gradually, we started talking about other things. "What do you want to do after high school?" I asked one day as we took a break from chemistry homework. "Play basketball in college, hopefully," he said. "After that, I don't know. Maybe coaching? Working with kids somehow." "You'd be good at that." He raised an eyebrow. "You think so?" "Yeah. When you're not being a complete ass, you're actually pretty patient, and you're good at breaking things down in simple terms." Thanks, I think. I laughed. It was a compliment. What about you? College plans? Pre-med? Hopefully. I want to be a pediatrician. Of course you do, he said with a fond smile. Helping people. That's so you. What's that supposed to mean? Nothing bad. It's just, you've always been the person who helps others, even when they don't deserve it. His voice got quieter. Even when they've been horrible to you. There was something in his tone that made my chest tight. We were sitting closer than usual, both of us leaning over the same textbook, and I was suddenly very aware of his proximity. The way his hair fell across his forehead, the concentration on his face as he worked through a problem, the warmth radiating from his body. Alex, he said softly, not looking up from the page. Yeah, thank you for this, for everything. You don't have to keep thanking me. Yes, I do. He looked up then, his eyes meeting mine. You didn't have to help me. After everything I put you through, you had every right to tell me to go to hell. But you didn't. Mason, I know I can't undo the past 3 years, he continued. I know I hurt you, probably more than you've let on. But I want you to know that these sessions, they're the best part of my week. My heart skipped a beat. They are... Yeah, it's the only time I feel like I can be myself. Not the guy my dad wants me to be. Not the captain everyone expects me to be. Just me. I didn't know what to say to that. We stared at each other for a moment that stretched too long, charged with something I couldn't name. Then Mason's phone buzzed, breaking the spell. Shit, he muttered, looking at the screen. Coach wants to see me. Go, I said. We can finish this tomorrow. Tomorrow's Thursday. We don't usually meet on Thursdays, so we'll make an exception. He smiled, gathering his things. You're amazing, you know that? Before I could respond, he was gone, leaving me sitting there with my heart pounding and my thoughts in complete chaos. If you're enjoying Alex and Mason's journey so far, please hit that like button. I love reading your comments about their relationship. Are you Team Mason, or do you think Alex should be more careful? Let me know below. Thursday's session was different. Mason seemed distracted, fidgety in a way that had nothing to do with his usual restlessness during studying. Everything okay? I asked after he'd read the same sentence 3 times without comprehending it. Yeah, just thinking about stuff. Want to talk about it? He hesitated, then closed his textbook. Can I ask you something? Sure. Do you think people can really change? Like, fundamentally change who they are? It was such an earnest question, asked with such vulnerability, that it caught me off guard. I think people can choose to be better than they were, I said carefully. But I don't think anyone needs to completely change who they are. Maybe they just need to let the good parts of themselves shine through. What if the good parts are buried pretty deep? Then you dig them up. He smiled at that. You make it sound so simple. Simple and easy are 2 different things. Yeah, he said softly. They are. We sat in comfortable silence for a moment. Then Mason spoke again. I've been thinking a lot about that day freshman year, when you stood up for Jenny. What about it? I keep wondering what would have happened if I'd made a different choice. If instead of reading her diary, I'd told those guys to back off. Why didn't you? He was quiet for so long, I didn't think he was going to answer. Then, because I was scared they'd see me as weak. Scared they'd stop respecting me if I showed any kindness. And now I think maybe being seen as weak would have been better than being seen as cruel. My heart ached for him. Mason, you were 14. We all made mistakes when we were 14. Not like this. Not for 3 years. No, I agreed. Not like this. But you're making different choices now. Am I? I still haven't told anyone about these sessions. I still act like the same person at school. Baby steps, I said. Change doesn't happen overnight. Baby steps, he repeated thoughtfully. I like that. As we packed up our things, Mason hesitated by his bag. Alex, he said, there's something else I want to tell you. What is it? These sessions, they're changing me. You're changing me. In ways I didn't expect. What do you mean? He looked at me with those honey-colored eyes, and I saw something there that made my breath catch. I mean, I look forward to seeing you every day. Not just for the tutoring. For you, I like talking to you, like hearing your thoughts on things. I like the person I am when I'm with you. My heart started pounding. Mason, I'm not done, he said quickly. I know this is complicated. I know I've given you every reason to hate me. But I need you to know that spending time with you it's been the best part of my junior year. Maybe the best part of high school. I stared at him, speechless. You don't have to say anything, he continued. I just wanted you to know. But I didn't want to say something. I wanted to tell him that these sessions had become the highlight of my week too, that I found myself thinking about him at random moments throughout the day, that somewhere along the way, I'd stopped seeing him as my bully and started seeing him as just Mason. I look forward to seeing you too, I said quietly. His face lit up. Really? Really? Even after everything? Especially after everything. You're not the same person who used to push me around, Mason. This person, the one sitting here with me, I like him a lot. The smile that spread across his face was radiant. You have no idea how much that means to me. I think I might have some idea. We stood there for a moment, just looking at each other, and I felt something shift between us. Something that had been building for weeks finally clicked into place. Alex, Mason said softly, taking a step closer. Yeah. Would it be okay if can I hug you? It was such a simple request, but it felt monumental. This would be the first time Mason Torres had ever touched me without the intent to harm or humiliate. Yeah, I whispered, that would be okay. He stepped forward and wrapped his arms around me, and it was nothing like I expected. He was warm and solid and gentle, holding me like I was something precious. I melted into him, my arms coming up to circle his waist. At the first time in 3 years, I felt completely safe in Mason's presence. Thank you, he whispered into my hair, for everything. I closed my eyes and breathed him in, soap and cologne and something uniquely Mason. You're welcome. We held each other for a long moment, neither wanting to break the spell. When we finally pulled apart, Mason's eyes were soft and warm, looking at me like I was the most important thing in the world. Same time Monday, he asked. Same time Monday, I confirmed. As I watched him walk away, I realized something that both thrilled and terrified me. I was falling for Mason Torres. Hard.
Chapter 3. The first touch of something real.
That weekend was torture. All I could think about was a hug, the way Mason had looked at me, the things he'd said. I replayed every moment of our conversation, analyzing every word, every expression, every pause. Did he feel it too, this thing growing between us? Or was I reading too much into kindness from someone who was learning to be a better person? Monday couldn't come fast enough. Mason was already at our usual table when I arrived at the library, but something was different about him. He seemed nervous, fidgety in a way I'd never seen before. Hey, I said, settling into my chair. Hey. He looked up at me and smiled, but it was tight around the edges. How was your weekend? Fine. Yours? Long. He ran his hand through his hair. Alex, can we talk before we start studying? My stomach dropped. Sure. What about? About Thursday. About what I said. Oh no, he was going to take it back. He was going to tell me he'd made a mistake, that he'd gotten caught up in the moment, that we should keep things strictly academic. I've been thinking about it all weekend, he continued, and I need you to know that I meant every word. I blinked, surprised. You did? Yeah, I meant it when I said these sessions were the best part of my week. I meant it when I said you were changing me. He leaned forward, his eyes intense. And I need you to know that it's not just gratitude. It's not just because you're helping me with my grades. What is it then? I think, he took a deep breath, I think I'm developing feelings for you. Real feelings. The world tilted on its axis. Feelings. I know it's crazy. I know I have no right to feel anything for you after what I put you through. But Alex, when I'm with you, I feel like the person I want to be. You make me want to be better, not because you tell me to, but because you believe I can be. My heart was pounding so hard I was sure he could hear it. Mason, I'm not asking for anything, he said quickly. I'm not expecting you to feel the same way. I just needed you to know. Because hiding it was making me crazy. I stared at him, this boy who had been my tormentor and was now laying his heart bare in front of me. I feel it too, I whispered. His eyes widened. You do? Yeah, I do. The words tumbled out in a rush. I've been thinking about you all weekend too. About Thursday, about the hug, about how I feel when we're together. How do you feel when we're together? Safe, I said immediately. Happy, like I matter to someone. You do matter. You matter so much. We stared at each other across the table, both of us breathing hard, the weight of our confessions hanging between us. What do we do now? I asked. I don't know, Mason admitted. I've never felt like this about anyone before. Anyone. He met my eyes steadily. Anyone. The implication hit me like a lightning bolt. Mason wasn't just saying he had feelings for me. He was saying I was his first, his sexual awakening, his first love, his first everything. I'm scared, I admitted. Of what? Of this. Of you. Of how much I'm starting to care about you. Mason reached across the table and took my hand. His skin was warm, slightly rough from basketball, and the touch sent electricity shooting up my arm. I'm scared too, he said. But I think maybe being scared together is better than being scared alone. I looked down at our joined hands, marveling at how right it felt. What if your friends find out? What if your dad finds out? Then they find out. His voice was firm, determined. I'm tired of living my life for other people, Alex. I want to live it for me. With you, if you'll let me. What are you asking? I'm asking if you want to try this. Whatever this is. I'm asking if you'd maybe want to be my boyfriend. Boyfriend. The word sent a thrill through me that I felt all the way to my toes. Yes, I said without hesitation. Yes, I want to try this. The smile that spread across Mason's face was brilliant, transforming his entire being. He lifted our joined hands and pressed a soft kiss to my knuckles, and I thought I might melt right there in the library. Thank you, he said softly, for giving me a chance, for believing in me when I didn't believe in myself. Thank you for becoming someone worth believing in. The next few weeks were like living in a beautiful dream. Mason and I were officially together, though we kept it quiet at school. He wasn't ready to come out publicly, and I understood that. It was enough that we had each other. Our tutoring sessions became something entirely different. We still worked on his assignments, but now they were punctuated with soft touches, stolen kisses, and long conversations about everything and nothing. Tell me something about yourself that no one else knows, Mason said one afternoon as we took a break from his English essay. Something no one knows? Something you've never told anyone. I thought for a moment. I used to write you letters. He raised an eyebrow. Letters? After particularly bad days. When you've been especially cruel, I'd go home and write you letters telling you exactly how I felt. How much you'd hurt me. How angry I was. How much I wish you'd just leave me alone. What did you do with the letters? Burn them in the fireplace. Mason was quiet for a long moment. I'm sorry. For all of it. For every letter you had to write. I know you are. Do you still write them? I smiled. No. Now I write different kind of letters. What kind? Love letters. I admitted, blushing. Ones I'll never send. Telling you all the things I'm too scared to say out loud. Mason's eyes went soft. Like what? Like how your smile makes my entire day better. Like how I love the way you scrunch up your nose when you're concentrating. Like how I think I'm falling in love with you, and it terrifies me. Mason went very still. You think you're falling in love with me? I think I already have. He reached across the table and cupped my face in his hands. Alex Thompson, he said softly, I am completely, utterly, hopelessly in love with you. My heart stopped. You are. I think I have been since that first day we talked on the school steps. Maybe even before that. Mason, I love your kindness, he continued, his thumbs brushing across my cheekbones. I love your intelligence. I love the way you see the best in everyone, even people who don't deserve it. I love your laugh, your smile, the way you bite your lip when you're thinking. Tears pricked my eyes. I love you too. Really, really. And then he kissed me, right there in the middle of the library, soft and sweet and full of all the words we couldn't say. It was my first kiss, and it was perfect. When we broke apart, both of us were breathing hard. I want to take you on a real date, Mason said. Not just studying in the library. A real date. Where? Anywhere you want to go. Movies, dinner, that little bookstore downtown you're always talking about. I want to hold your hand and buy you popcorn and kiss you goodnight on your doorstep, like a proper boyfriend. The thought made my heart race. What if someone sees us? Then they see us, he said firmly. I'm not ashamed of you, Alex. I'm not ashamed of this. But your friends will deal with it or they won't. But I'm not hiding anymore. I'm not pretending you don't mean everything to me. Everything to him. God, this boy was going to be the death of me. Okay, I said, let's go on a real date.
Chapter 4. First date, first everything.
Mason picked me up at 7 on Saturday night, and I spent the entire afternoon getting ready. I must have changed my shirt 4 times before settling on a blue button-down that brought out my eyes. When I opened the front door, Mason was standing there with a bouquet of sunflowers, my favorite, though I'd never told him that. How did you know? I asked, taking the flowers. I pay attention, he said with a soft smile. I've seen the sunflower stickers on your notebooks, the wallpaper on your phone. It wasn't hard to figure out. My heart melted a little more. They're perfect. Thank you. He looked incredible. Dark jeans, a green sweater that hugged his frame perfectly. His hairstyle just slightly messy in that effortless way that probably took him 20 minutes to achieve. You look amazing, he said, his eyes warm as they took me in. So do you... ready to go? Where are we going? It's a surprise. The surprise turned out to be the county fair, which was perfect in every way. It was public enough that we weren't completely alone, but crowded enough that no one would pay attention to 2 boys holding hands. I thought you might like it, Mason said as we walked through the entrance, his fingers intertwined with mine. It's cheesy and romantic, and there's cotton candy. You know me too well. I'm trying to. We spent hours wandering around, playing carnival games, eating ridiculously unhealthy food, and talking about everything and nothing. Mason won me a giant stuffed elephant at the ring toss, and I couldn't stop smiling as I carried it around. You're really good at this, I said as he knocked down his 3rd set of milk bottles. Basketball hand-eye coordination, he said with a grin. Finally useful for something other than sports. Your dad would disagree. Mason's smile faltered slightly. My dad doesn't get a vote in what makes me happy anymore. As the sun set, Mason led me to the Ferris wheel. We climbed into our car and slowly rose above the fairgrounds, the lights twinkling below us like stars. This is nice, I said, leaning against Mason's side. Yeah, it is. He wrapped his arm around me, pulling me closer. Alex, thank you for giving me a chance, for seeing something in me worth saving. I looked up at him. You need saving, Mason. You just needed someone to believe in you. Same thing, maybe. As we reached the top of the Ferris wheel, Mason turned to face me fully. I have something I want to tell you. What is it? I've never felt like this before. About anyone. I've never wanted to be with someone the way I want to be with you. I've never cared about someone's happiness more than my own. My breath caught. Mason, I know we're young. I know we have a lot to figure out. But Alex, I want to figure out with you. I want to introduce you to my parents as my boyfriend. I want to hold your hand in the hallways at school. I want everyone to know how lucky I am. Tears filled my eyes. Are you sure? Once we do that, there's no going back. I've never been more sure of anything in my life, Mason said, his voice steady and sure. I love you, Alex. I want the whole world to know it. As our Ferris wheel car gently swayed at the top, surrounded by stars and twinkling lights, Mason leaned in and kissed me. It was soft and sweet and filled with promise, and in that moment I knew that everything was about to change. I love you too, I whispered against his lips. So much. When we finally came down from the Ferris wheel, we walked slowly through the fair, neither of us wanting the night to end. Mason bought me cotton candy, and I fed him pieces of it, laughing when it stuck to his nose. "I don't want this to end," I said as we sat on a bench, watching the last few families pack up and leave. "It doesn't have to," Mason said. "This is just the beginning." He drove me home slowly, taking the long way, and when we pulled into my driveway, he walked me to the door like the gentleman he was becoming. "Thank you for tonight," I said. "It was perfect. It was, wasn't it?" He smiled, tucking a strand of hair behind my ear. "Same time next Saturday?" "It's a date." He kissed me goodnight on my doorstep, soft and lingering, and I watched from my window as he drove away, my heart so full I thought it might burst.
Chapter 5. Going Public.
Monday morning at school felt different. Mason and I had agreed to take things slow with the public aspect, but there was a new confidence in both of us. We'd found something real, something worth fighting for. I was at my locker when Mason appeared, but this time his usual crew wasn't with him. "Hey," he said, leaning against the locker next to mine. "Hey yourself. Where's your entourage?" I told him I'd catch up with him later. He glanced around, then stepped closer. "I wanted to walk your class." My heart skipped. "You sure about that?" "Positive." So we walked through the hallways together, and if people stared, Mason didn't seem to care. He carried my books and made me laugh, and for the first time in 3 years, I felt proud to be seen with Mason Torres. "This is my stop," I said when we reached my chemistry classroom. "Mine too, actually." I switched into your section. I stared at him. "You what?" "I switched sections. Figure it was time I started taking chemistry seriously." He grinned. "Plus, now I get to see you during the day." "Mason Torres, you are full of surprises. You haven't seen anything yet." That afternoon, Mason found me at lunch. Not at his usual table with the basketball team, but at my quiet corner table where I usually sat alone. "Mind if I join you?" he asked, setting his tray down across from me. "What about your friends?" "What about them? Won't they wonder why you're sitting here?" Mason looked over the basketball table, where his teammates were indeed staring at us with confused expressions. Then he looked back at me. "Let them wonder." We ate lunch together, talking about our morning classes, making plans for our next tutoring session, just being normal boyfriends. And if I noticed the whispers starting around us, if I saw the way people were beginning to put pieces together, I tried not to let it bother me. "You okay?" Mason asked, noticing my distraction. "Just thinking about how different this is from a few months ago." "Good different or bad different?" "Good different," I said immediately. "Definitely good different." After lunch, as we walked through the hallways together, Mason suddenly stopped. "Alex," he said, his voice serious. "What is it?" "I need to tell you something." My stomach clenched. "Okay." "The team is starting to ask questions. About us. About why I've been different lately." "What kind of questions?" "Jake asked me yesterday if I was dating someone. Said I've been weird and happy lately." Mason ran his hand through his hair. I didn't know what to say. Fear crept into my chest. "What did you tell him?" "Nothing." I changed the subject. "But Alex." He took my hands in his, right there in the middle of the hallway. "I don't want to lie anymore. I don't want to hide what you mean to me." "What are you saying?" "I'm saying I want to tell them. About us. About everything." My heart started pounding. "Are you sure?" "Mason, this is a big step. Once it's out there." "I know, but I can't keep pretending you're just my tutor. I can't keep acting like you're not the best thing that's ever happened to me." People were starting to stare at us, standing in the middle of the hallway holding hands. I could see phones being pulled out, whispers starting. "Mason," I said quietly, "people are watching." He looked around, taking in the stares, the phones, the obvious curiosity. Then he looked back at me. "Good," he said firmly. "Let them watch." And then, right there in front of everyone, Mason Torres leaned down and kissed me. It wasn't a long kiss, wasn't dramatic or overly passionate. It was simple and sweet and absolutely unmistakable. When we broke apart, the hallway had gone completely silent. "There," Mason said, his voice carrying in the quiet. "Now they know." The silence lasted exactly 3 seconds before the hallway erupted in noise. Whispers, gasps, a few cheers from the more progressive students, and the unmistakable sound of dozens of phones capturing the moment. "No going back now," I said, my heart racing. "No going back now," Mason agreed. "Are you okay with that?" I looked at him, this brave, beautiful boy who had just risked everything to claim me publicly, and I felt nothing but love. I'm perfect with that.
Chapter 6. The Fallout and the Support.
The next few days were intense. To put it mildly, the video of our hallway kiss spread through the school like wildfire, and suddenly everyone had an opinion about Mason Torres and Alex Thompson. Some of the reactions were positive. Jenny Morrison, the girl Mason had defended all those years ago, stopped by my locker to tell me she thought we were absolutely adorable together. Several of my classmates offered support, and even some of the teachers smiled at us approvingly when they saw us together. But not all the reactions were good. "Faggots," someone muttered as we walked past a group of upperclassmen. Mason went rigid beside me, his hand tightening on mine. "Keep walking," I said quietly. I should say something. "Not worth it. Let's just keep walking." But Mason had reached his limit with letting things slide. He turned around, still holding my hand, and faced a group of boys. "You have something you want to say to us?" he asked, his voice calm but dangerous. The boys looked surprised that Mason had confronted them. One of them, a football player named Derek, stepped forward. "Just think it's weird, man. You used to be cool." "I'm still cool," Mason replied evenly. "I'm just also in love with someone who happens to be a guy. If that's a problem for you, that's your issue, not mine." "Come on, Mason. This is just a phase, right? Some kind of rebellion thing." I felt Mason's hand shake slightly in mine, but his voice remained steady. "No, Derek, this isn't a phase. This isn't rebellion. This is me being honest about who I am for the first time in my life. But you're throwing away your reputation for him?" Derek gestured dismissively at me. That's when Mason's composure cracked. "That's Alex," he said, his voice rising. "His name is Alex, and he's the smartest, kindest, most amazing person I've ever met. He's my boyfriend, and I'm proud to be with him. If that threatens your fragile masculinity, then maybe you need to examine why." The confrontation drew a crowd, and I could see phones coming out again. "Mason," I said quietly, tugging on his hand. "Let's go." But Derek wasn't done. "Whatever, man. Just don't expect things to be the same on the team." "What's that supposed to mean?" "It means some of us aren't comfortable showering with, you know." I watched Mason's face change, saw the hurt flash across his features before being replaced by anger. "Are you serious right now?" "Dead serious." "You think being gay makes me some kind of predator? You think I'm going to hit on you?" Mason laughed bitterly. "Derek, you're not even close to my type. Alex here is a 10, and you're maybe a 3 on a good day." A few people in the growing crowd snickered at that. Derek's face flushed red. "You little..." "That's enough." The voice that cut through the tension belonged to Coach Martinez, who had appeared seemingly out of nowhere. "All of you, disperse. Now." His eyes found Mason and me. "Torres, Thompson. My office. 5 minutes." As the crowd reluctantly broke up, Derek shot Mason a look that promised this wasn't over. "You okay?" I asked Mason as we walked toward the gym. "Yeah. You?" "Yeah. That was intense. I'm sorry you had to deal with that." "I'm not sorry you stood up for us." Mason stopped walking and turned to face me. "I meant what I said, about being proud to be with you. I know you did." "Good, because I'm going to keep saying it until everyone believes it." Coach Martinez's office was small and cluttered with awards, team photos, and motivational posters. He gestured for us to sit in the chairs across from his desk. "So," he said, settling into his own chair, "want to tell me what that was about?" Mason and I exchanged glances. "Some of the guys are having trouble adjusting to recent developments." Mason said carefully, "By recent developments, you mean the fact that you're dating Thompson here?" "Yes, sir." Coach Martinez leaned back in his chair, studying us both. "How long has this been going on?" "About a month, sir. But we've been friends longer than that." "Friends. Coach repeated with a slight smile. Is that what we're calling it? I felt my cheeks heat up. Look, Coach continued, I'm going to be straight with you boys. No pun intended. This is going to be an adjustment for everyone. The team, the school, the parents. My heart sank. Here it came, the lecture about how this would be disruptive. How maybe it would be better if Mason stepped down from the team. But, Coach continued, Torres, you're one of the best players I've ever coached. You're a natural leader. Your grades have improved dramatically this semester, and your attitude has been nothing but positive. Mason blinked. Sir, I don't care who you're dating as long as it doesn't affect your performance on the court. And from what I can see, this relationship has only made you a better player and a better person. Relief flooded through me. As for the team, Coach continued, I'll handle any issues that come up. We're going to have a team meeting tomorrow, and I'm going to make it very clear that discrimination of any kind won't be tolerated. Thank you, Coach, Mason said quietly. Don't thank me yet. This isn't going to be easy, Torres. There will be people who give you grief, people who question your place on the team, people who say things that will hurt. You ready for that? Mason reached over and took my hand. With Alex by my side, I'm ready for anything.
Chapter 7. Meeting the Parents.
3 weeks after our very public debut, Mason decided it was time for me to meet his parents. Are you sure about this? I asked as we sat in his car outside his house. Maybe we should wait a little longer. I've been putting this off for too long, Mason said. My parents know something's different with me, and I'm tired of deflecting their questions. What if they don't like me? They'll love you, Mason said confidently. How could they not? I'm the reason their son is getting harassed at school. No, Mason said firmly, turning to face me. You're not the reason for anything bad that's happening. You're the reason for everything good that's happening. And once my parents see how happy you make me, they'll understand. I took a deep breath. Okay, let's do this. Mason's house was impressive. 2 stories, perfectly manicured lawn, the kind of place that screamed successful family. I felt suddenly self-conscious about my thrift store clothes and my beat-up backpack. Stop it, Mason said, as if he could read my thoughts. Stop what? Worrying about not being good enough. You're more than good enough. He squeezed my hand as we walked up to the front door. Mason, a woman's voice called as we entered. Is that you? Yeah, Mom. I brought someone I want you to meet. Mason's mother appeared from what looked like the kitchen, wiping her hands on a dish towel. She was petite and elegant, with the same honey-colored eyes as her son. Oh, she said, stopping short when she saw me. Hello. Mom, this is Alex. Alex, my mom, Elena Torres. It's nice to meet you, Mrs. Torres, I said, extending my hand. She shook it, but I could see the confusion in her eyes. Nice to meet you too, Alex. Are you one of Mason's teammates? No, ma'am. I'm his friend. Mason stepped closer to me. Actually, Mom, Alex is my boyfriend. The silence that followed was deafening. Mrs. Torres looked back and forth between us, her expression unreadable. Your boyfriend, she repeated slowly. Yes. I see. She was quiet for a moment. Well, Alex, would you like to stay for dinner? I blinked, surprised. Oh, I don't want to impose. Nonsense. Any friend of Mason's is welcome here. The way she hesitated over the word friend told me she was still processing, but the fact that she invited me to stay was encouraging. Dad's in his office. Mason said, Should we? Let me talk to him first. Mrs. Torres said quickly, Give me a few minutes. After she disappeared down the hallway, Mason and I stood in the foyer, listening to muffled voices from behind a closed door. That went well, I said. She didn't throw you out, so yeah, I'd say that's a win. 20 minutes later, Mason's father emerged from his office. Carlos Torres was tall and imposing, with graying hair and kind eyes that looked exactly like Mason's. He studied me for a long moment before extending his hand. Alex, right? I'm Carlos. Yes, sir. It's an honor to meet you. Mason tells me you're the reason his grades have improved so dramatically this semester. Well, I just helped him study. Mason did all the hard work himself. Carlos nodded approvingly. Modest. I like that. Dinner was initially awkward, with lots of careful conversation and polite questions about my family, my interests, my college plans. But gradually, as Mason's parents saw how we interacted, the easy banter, the obvious affection, the way we supported each other, the tension began to ease. So, Alex, Mrs. Torres said as we finished dessert, what are your intentions with our son? Mom, Mason protested, but she held up a hand. I have a right to ask. I set down my fork and looked directly at her. Mrs. Torres, I love your son. I love his kindness, his determination, his sense of humor. I love how hard he works and how much he's grown as a person. My intention is to support him in everything he does and to be the best partner I can be to him. She studied my face for a long moment, then smiled. The first genuine smile she'd given me all evening. Good answer. After dinner, Mason walked me in my car while his parents cleaned up. That was terrifying, I said. But you survived. Do you think they like me? I think they're warming up to you. My mom asked if you were coming to my next game. She did. Yep. Which reminds me, you are coming to my next game, right? Wouldn't miss it. As I drove home, I felt a sense of accomplishment. It wasn't perfect, but it was a start. Mason's parents were trying, and that was all I could ask for. We're getting to the most emotional parts of Alex and Mason's story. If you're invested in their journey, please subscribe and turn on notifications. You won't want to miss how this beautiful love story continues to unfold. Drop a heart in the comments if you're rooting for them.
Chapter 8. The game that changed everything.
Mason's next basketball game was against our school's biggest rival, and the gym was packed. I sat in the student section, wearing Mason's spare jersey, number 23, and trying not to feel self-conscious about all the looks I was getting. You're Alex, right? I turned to see a girl I recognized from my English class sitting beside me. Yeah, Sarah, right? That's me. I just want to say, I think you and Mason are really cute together. Thanks, I said, surprised by the support. I mean it. Mason's been different this semester. Happier. It's nice to see. The game was intense from the start. Mason played like he had something to prove, scoring basket after basket, making impossible shots look effortless. Every time he scored, he'd look up at me in the stands and smile. But I could also see the tension. Some of his teammates weren't passing to him as much as they should. There were a few plays where he was clearly open but didn't get the ball. And I noticed Derek, the football player who confronted us in the hallway, sitting with a group of guys who kept making comments every time Mason touched the ball. With 2 minutes left in the fourth quarter and the game tied, Mason stole the ball and was driving toward the basket when one of the opposing players fouled him hard, sending him crashing to the floor. He didn't get up immediately. My heart stopped as I watched him lie there, clutching his shoulder. Coach Martinez ran onto court, followed by the team medic. Mason! I called out, not caring that half the gym could hear me. He looked up at me from the court and gave me a weak smile, letting me know he was okay. But when they helped him to his feet, I could see he was favoring his right arm. I'm fine, I heard him tell Coach. I can play. Like hell you can. You're done for tonight. Coach, please. We need this win. We need you healthy more than we need this win. Sit down. Mason reluctantly took a seat on the bench. Ice pack pressed his shoulder, watching his teammates play out the final minutes. They lost by 3 points. I rushed down to the court as soon as the game ended, pushing through the crowd to get to Mason. Hey, I said, kneeling beside his chair. How are you feeling? Like an idiot for getting hurt with 2 minutes left. It wasn't your fault. That guy fouled you hard. Yeah, well, now the team's going to blame me for the loss. That's ridiculous. You scored 28 points. Mason looked at me with such love in his eyes that I forgot we were in the middle of a crowded gym. God, I love you, he said. I love you too. Get room. The shout came from somewhere in the crowd, followed by laughter. I felt my cheeks burn, but Mason just pulled me closer with his good arm. Ignore them, he said. Torres. We looked up to see Derek approaching with a group of his football buddies. Tough break, man, Derek said, but there was no sympathy in his voice. Guess you were distracted by your little boyfriend in the stands. Mason's jaw clenched. My shoulder has nothing to do with Alex. Doesn't it? You've been off your game all season, dude. Ever since you started this, whatever this is. Off my game? I'm leading the team in scoring. Yeah, but you're not playing like a team player anymore. You're playing like you've got something to prove. Maybe because I do. Derek laughed. You want to prove you can play basketball while gay? News flash. Nobody cares about your personal life. We care about winning games. We lost by 3 points. I said, speaking up for the first time. Mason scored 28 of those points. How exactly is that his fault? Derek turned his attention to me, and I immediately regretted saying anything. Oh, look, the boyfriend thinks he knows basketball. I know enough to recognize that Mason is the best player on this team. Alex, Mason warned, but I was too angry to stop. I also know that if his teammates actually pass him the ball instead of freezing him out because they're uncomfortable with his sexuality, you probably would have one. Derek's face flushed red. What did you just say? You heard me. You little. That's enough. Coach Martinez's voice boomed across the gym, causing everyone within earshot to freeze. Derek, you and your friends need to leave. Now. Coach, I said now. As Derek and his friends reluctantly left, Coach turned to Mason and me. Torres, get that shoulder looked at. Thompson, good to see you supporting our team. Thank you, Coach. After everyone had cleared out, Mason and I sat alone in the empty gym, his head resting on my shoulder. I'm sorry about Derek, he said. I'm not. Someone needed to call him out. You didn't have to defend me. Yes, I did. You're my boyfriend. I'll always defend you. Mason lifted his head to look at me, even when it puts a target on your back. Especially then. He kissed me then, soft and sweet and full of gratitude. I don't deserve you, he murmured against my lips. Lucky for you. It's not about what you deserve. It's about how much I love you.
Chapter 9, The Breaking Point.
The harassment escalated after the game. What had started as whispered comments and occasional confrontations became a daily barrage of slurs, jokes, and outright hostility. Someone spray-painted "faggot" on Mason's locker. Notes were left in my backpack with graphic descriptions of what people thought we did together. The bathroom walls were covered with crude drawings and offensive messages about us. But the worst part was watching it affect Mason. Maybe we should cool things off for a while, he said one afternoon as we sat in his car after school. We'd stopped going to the library for our tutoring sessions because people kept following us there. Cool things off how? Just be more discreet. Not hold hands at school, not sit together at lunch. My heart sank. You want to go back in the closet. Not go back in the closet. Just be more private. Mason, what happened to not caring what people think? I don't care what they think about me, he said, his voice tight. But I care what they're doing to you. Alex, you've been getting death threats. It was true. 3 different notes had been left in my locker over the past week, all containing violent threats against me and Mason. So we report them to the administration. And then what? They'll suspend a few people, and the rest will just get more creative with their harassment. So what are you suggesting? Mason was quiet for a long moment. Maybe you should transfer schools. The words hit me like a physical blow. What? Just until graduation. There's that private school across town, the one with the good arts program you mentioned. You want me to leave? I want you to be safe. I am safe. I'm safer with you than I've ever been without you. Alex, they're talking about jumping you after school. Derek's been asking around about where you live. This is getting dangerous. Then we'll deal with it together. We don't run away. This isn't running away. It's being smart. I stared at him, feeling like I was looking at a stranger. 3 months ago, you kissed me in front of the entire school. You said you were proud to be with me. You said you wanted everyone to know how lucky you were. I did mean that. And now you wanted to transfer schools so you don't have to deal with the consequences? That's not what this is about, isn't it? Mason, the minute things get difficult, you want to hide me away somewhere safe so you can go back to being the golden boy without complications. Alex, that's not fair. Isn't it fair? You're asking me to leave my school, my friends, my life, so that you can keep yours. Mason's face crumpled. I'm trying to protect you. I don't need your protection. I need your partnership. What if something happens to you? What if they actually hurt you? Then we'll deal with it. Together, like couples do. But no but, my son. Either we're in this together or we're not. You don't get to love me only when it's convenient. Tears filled his eyes. I do love you, more than anything. Then prove it. Stop trying to hide me and start fighting for us. The next morning, I half expected Mason not to show up at my locker. Part of me thought he'd choose the easy path, the one that didn't involve daily harassment and constant conflict. But there he was, leaning against the lockers with a cup of coffee and a determined expression. You're right, he said when he saw me. About what? About everything. I was being a coward. Mason. No, let me finish. He stepped closer. You've been braver than I have from the beginning. You stood up to me when I was bullying you. You gave me a chance when you had every reason not to. You faced all of this harassment with more grace and strength than I've shown. I haven't been that strong. You have. And you were right yesterday. Either we're partners in this, or we're not. And I want to be your partner. In everything. What does that mean? It means no more hiding. No more asking you to be discreet or transfer schools or disappear so my life is easier. He reached for my hands, right there in the crowded hallway. It means I fight for us. Every day, no matter what. And if the harassment continues, then we report it, document it, and make sure everyone knows that this behavior is unacceptable. And if your teammates keep freezing you out, then I'll find new teammates. There are other schools, other teams, but there's only one you. My heart swelled. Mason, I love you, Alex Thompson, and I'm done letting anyone make me feel ashamed of that. He leaned down and kissed me, right there in the middle of the hallway during the busiest time of the morning. It was bold and defiant and absolutely perfect. When we broke apart, the hallway had gone quiet, just like it had that first time. But this time, Mason didn't look nervous or scared. He looked proud. Ready to face the day together? He asked, offering me his hand. Ready, I said, taking it. And together, we walked through the hallways of Westfield High, heads held high, ready to face whatever came our way.
Chapter 10. The Victory.
The next few weeks tested our resolve in ways I never could have imagined. The harassment continued, but something had changed. Mason was different, stronger, more confident, more willing to confront the people who try to make our lives miserable. And slowly, things began to shift. It started small. A few teachers began actively shutting down homophobic comments in their classrooms. Some of Mason's teammates started passing him the ball again. A group of students formed an impromptu gay-straight alliance and asked us to be part of it. I think people are getting tired of the drama, Mason said as we sat at lunch together, openly and without apology. Even the ones who don't necessarily support us are sick of all the conflict. Progress. I said, slow progress, but progress. The real turning point came during the regional championship game. Mason had been playing the best basketball of his life, leading the team in scoring and assists, proving to everyone that being gay had only made him a better player, not worse. The team had rallied around him in recent weeks, with even some of his former critics acknowledging that they needed him if they wanted to win. I sat in the stands wearing his jersey, nervous energy coursing through me as I watched the team warm up. The gym was packed with college scouts, local media, and what seemed like half the town. You must be Alex. I turned to see an older woman with kind eyes and a warm smile sitting beside me. I'm sorry, do we know each other? I'm Ruth Martinez, Coach Martinez's wife. I've heard a lot about you. All good things, I hope. She laughed. Very good things. My husband says you're the reason Mason's grades improved so dramatically. Says you're also the reason he's playing with so much heart lately. I think Mason deserved the credit for both of those things. Modest and loyal. I can see why he loves you. The game was intense from the opening tip. We were playing the defending state champions. a team that hadn't lost a game all season. They were bigger, faster, and more experienced than us. But Mason played like he was possessed. He scored, he rebounded, he assisted, he dove for loose balls. He did everything possible to keep us in the game. By the fourth quarter, we were only down by 2 points, and the entire gym was on their feet. With 30 seconds left, Mason stole the ball and drove toward the basket. The defender fouled him hard, but Mason made the shot anyway, tying the game and earning a free throw for the lead. As he stood at the free throw line, the gym went quiet. I could see the tension in his shoulders, the weight of the moment pressing down on him. He looked up at me in the stands, and I pressed my hand to my heart, our secret signal that meant, I love you. He smiled, took a deep breath, and sank the free throw. We won by 1 point. Regional champions. The celebration on the court was chaotic and joyful, with teammates lifting Mason on their shoulders and coaches crying tears of joy. I watched in the stands, my heart so full of pride and love that I thought it might burst. Alex. I looked down to see Mason pushing through the crowd toward me. Without thinking, I jumped down from the bleachers and ran to him. He caught me in his arms, spinning me around as the crowd cheered. We did it, he said, his voice thick with emotion. You did it, I corrected. Mason, you were incredible. I couldn't have done it without you. That's not true. Yes, it is. He set me down and cupped my face in his hands. You made me brave, Alex. You made me believe I could be exactly who I am and still achieve everything I wanted. Tears filled my eyes. I love you so much. I love you too. He kissed me then, in front of the entire gym, in front of the cameras and the scouts and everyone who had ever doubted us. And this time, instead of silence or whispers, the crowd erupted in cheers. Later, after the interviews and the celebration and the team dinner, Mason and I sat on the hood of his car in the empty school parking lot, looking up at the stars. I can't believe we made it through all of this, I said. I can, Mason replied. We're stronger together than we ever were apart. What happens now? Now we graduate. We go to college. We keep building this life we started together. And the people who try to tear us apart. Mason smiled. They get to watch us succeed anyway. I leaned against his shoulder, content and happy and more in love than I thought possible. Mason? Yeah. Thank you. For what? For choosing to fight for us instead of giving up. Thank you for making me worth fighting for. As we sat there under the stars, I thought about how far we'd come. From bully and victim to boyfriends to partners to champions. Not just of basketball, but of love, acceptance, and the courage to be exactly who we were meant to be.
Epilogue, 5 years later.
Before I tell you the final chapter of Alex and Mason's incredible love story, I want to say thank you to everyone who's been following along on this emotional journey. If this story has touched your heart, please hit subscribe and ring that notification bell. I have so many more beautiful love stories to share with you. Your comments mean the world to me, and I love hearing how these stories inspire you. Now, let me tell you how this beautiful romance ends. I'm standing in front of the mirror in a small room behind the chapel, adjusting my tie for the 100th time. My hands are shaking, which is ridiculous because I've never been more sure of anything in my life. You look perfect. I turn to see Jenny Morrison, now Jenny Chun, married to that boy she had a crush on in sophomore year, standing in the doorway with a warm smile. I don't feel perfect. I feel like I'm going to throw up. Jenny laughed. That's completely normal. I threw up twice before my wedding. Did it help? Not really, but it passed. She stepped into the room and straightened my boutonniere, a small sunflower, of course. You know, she said, I always hoped you two would end up together. You did? Even back in high school, after Mason changed, I could see the way he looked at you, like you were the most important person in the world. He still looks at me like that. And you look at him the same way. It's beautiful, Alex. What you two have is really beautiful. Through the small window, I can see guests filing into the chapel. Mason's parents, looking proud and happy. My parents, who had embraced Mason like a second son from the moment they met him. Coach Martinez and his wife. Several of our college friends. Even some of our old high school classmates, including a few who had given us grief back then, but I had reached out over the years to apologize and show support. 5 minutes. Someone calls from the hallway. My stomach lurches again. "Hey," Jenny says, placing a gentle hand on my arm. "Do you remember what you told me in senior year, when I was nervous about asking Tom to prom?" I shake my head. "You said that if two people really love each other, everything else is just details. The ceremony, the party, the flowers, none of that matters. What matters is the love." Did I really say that? You did, and it's true. Today isn't about the perfect ceremony or impressing anyone. It's about you and Mason promising to love each other for the rest of your lives. And honestly, you've already been doing that for 5 years. She's right. Mason and I had chosen the same college, moved in together junior year, adopted a ridiculous golden retriever named Biscuit, and built a life together that was better than anything I could have imagined. Mason finished his sports management degree and now works for a nonprofit that provides athletic programs for underprivileged kids. I'm finishing my residency in pediatrics at the Children's Hospital. We have a small apartment with terrible plumbing and a kitchen that's barely big enough for 2 people, and it's absolutely perfect. Ready? Jenny asks. I take a deep breath, thinking about the boy who used to be my bully, who became my tutor partner, who transformed into my boyfriend, and who asked me to marry him 6 months ago on the anniversary of our first date. Ready. The music starts, and I walk down the aisle with my father, trying not to trip over my own feet. The chapel is small and intimate, decorated with sunflowers and white roses, exactly what Mason and I had wanted. But I barely notice any of it because Mason is standing at the altar, and he looks absolutely incredible. He's wearing a charcoal gray suit that fits him perfectly, his hair styled just the way I like it, with a smile that could light up the entire room. When our eyes meet, he mouths, "I love you," and I feel my nerves settle immediately. This is Mason. My Mason, the person who knows me better than anyone, who makes me laugh every single day, who still brings me sunflowers just because. There's nothing to be nervous about. My father kisses my cheek and shakes Mason's hand before taking a seat, and suddenly it's just the 2 of us, standing in front of our friends and family, ready to promise each other forever. "Hi," Mason whispers, grinning at me. "Hi yourself, handsome." The officiant begins the ceremony, but I'm only half listening, because I'm too busy memorizing this moment. The way Mason's eyes never leave my face. The way his hands are shaking slightly as he holds mine. The way the late afternoon sunlight streams through the stained glass windows and makes everything look magical. Alex and Mason have written their own vows, the officiant says. "Mason, would you like to go first?" Mason nods, reaching into his jacket pocket for the folded piece of paper he's been carrying around for weeks. "Alex," he begins, his voice steady despite the emotion I can see in his eyes. 5 years ago, you saved my life." A few people in the audience make soft sounds of appreciation. I don't mean that metaphorically. I mean you literally saved my life. I was drowning in anger and fear and self-hatred, and you threw me a lifeline. You saw something worth saving in me when I couldn't see it myself. Tears are already starting to form in my eyes. You taught me what real strength looks like. Not the kind that comes from putting others down, but the kind that comes from building them up. You taught me that being vulnerable isn't weakness, it's courage. You taught me that love isn't about possession or control. It's about partnership and support and choosing each other every single day. He pauses, his own eyes getting misty. You've been my tutor, my best friend, my boyfriend, and my partner in every adventure life has thrown at us. Today, I get to add husband to that list, and I can't think of anything that would make me happier. He looks directly into my eyes. Alex Thompson, I promise to love you fiercely and gently. I promise to support your dreams, even when they scare me. I promise to bring you sunflowers when you're sad and celebrate with you when you're happy. I promise to be your partner in all things, big and small. And I promise to keep choosing you every day for the rest of my life. I'm definitely crying now, and I don't care who sees it. Alex, the officiant prompts gently. I clear my throat, try and compose myself enough to speak. Mason, I begin, my voice thick with emotion. When we were 17, you asked me to help you with chemistry homework. I thought I was just helping you pass a class. I had no idea I was falling in love with my soulmate. Mason's smile is radiant. You've taught me so much about courage, about standing up for what's right, about the power of choosing to be better than you were yesterday. You've shown me what it means to fight for something worth having, to work for something worth keeping, to build something worth celebrating. I take his hands in mine, feeling the familiar warmth and strength there. You've been my protector, my challenger, my biggest supporter, and my greatest love. You make me brave when I feel small. You make me laugh when I want to cry. And you make every ordinary day feel like an adventure. I pause, gather my thoughts. Mason Torres, I promise to love you completely and without reservation. I promise to challenge you when you need it and comfort you when you don't. I promise to be your teammate in everything, from raising our future children to walking our ridiculous dog to growing old together. And I promise to keep falling in love with you over and over again for all the days of my life. The rings, the officiant asks. Danny, Mason's older brother and best man, steps forward with a small pillow. Mason's relationship with his family had healed over the years, especially after Danny had privately apologized to both of us for not standing up to their father's initial prejudice. Mason takes my ring first, a simple white gold band that matches his own, and slides it onto my finger. With this ring, I thee wed. I take his ring, my hand steadier now, and slide it onto his finger. With this ring, I thee wed. By the power vested in me by the state of California, the officiant says with a warm smile, I now pronounce you married. You may kiss your husband. Mason doesn't wait for me to close the distance. He steps forward, cups my face in his hands, and kisses me like we're the only two people in the world. It's soft and sweet and full of promise. And when we break apart, the entire chapel erupts in cheers and applause. Ladies and gentlemen, the officiant announces, I present to you Mr. and Mr. Torres Thompson. The reception is everything we dreamed it would be. We eat too much cake, dance to terrible music, and laugh until our faces hurt. Mason's father, who had initially struggled with our relationship but had come around years ago, gives a toast that brings half the room to tears. When Mason first told us about Alex, he says, raising his champagne glass, I'll admit I was concerned. Not because Alex wasn't wonderful. Anyone could see that from the first time we met him. I was concerned because I didn't understand what they had, and I was afraid they were too young to make it work. He looks at us with pride. I was wrong. What these two have isn't young love that will fade with time. It's the kind of love that grows stronger with every challenge, deeper with every year, more beautiful with every season. They built something remarkable together, and I'm honored to call Alex my son. I squeeze Mason's hand under the table, both of us emotional. Later, as we're saying goodbye to the last of our guests, Coach Martinez pulls us aside. You boys did good, he says simply. Really good. Thank you, Coach, Mason says, for everything, for believing in us when not everyone did. I never doubted you for a second, either of you. Jenny is one of the last to leave, hugging us both tightly. I'm so happy for you, she says. Both of you deserve this happiness. Thank you, I tell her, for being there from the beginning, for never judging us, for always believing in us. Are you kidding? You too gave me hope that real love exists. Tommy and I wouldn't be married now if we hadn't seen what true partnership looks like by watching you. Finally, it's just Mason and me in the empty reception hall, surrounded by flowers and the remnants of our celebration. Hello, husband, Mason says, pulling me into his arms. Hello, husband. I reply, still getting used to the sound of it. How does it feel? Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Even though Derek Morrison threw up on the dance floor. Especially because Derek Morrison threw up on the dance floor. Did you see Jenny's face? We both laugh, remembering the chaos that had ensued when Jenny's notoriously lightweight brother-in-law had one too many drinks. I can't believe we're married, Mason says, spinning me around slowly to the music that's still playing softly in the background. I can't believe it took us this long. Hey, we had to finish college first. And your residency. And save up for the ring. The ring is perfect, by the way. You're perfect. We're perfect together. Yeah, we are. We dance in the empty hall. Just the two of us, surrounded by sunflowers and fairy lights and all the love our friends and family had showered on us today. What are you thinking about? Mason asks after a few minutes of comfortable silence. Just everything. How we got here. How far we've come. Any regrets? Only one. Mason stops dancing, looking concerned. What? I regret that it took us so long to find each other. I wish we'd skipped all the bullying and hatred and gone straight to this part. Mason considers this seriously. You know what? I don't. You don't. Don't get me wrong. I hate that I hurt you. I'll always regret that. But Alex, if we just met and fallen in love without all the struggle, would we appreciate what we have as much as we do? He has a point. We fought for this, he continues. We chose each other when it was hard, when people told us we were crazy, when it would have been easier to walk away. That makes this stronger, don't you think? Yeah, I say softly. It does. Besides, some of the best love stories start with the worst first impressions. Is that what you're calling it? A bad first impression? Fine, I was a complete asshole. But look how well that worked out for me. I laugh, shaking my head. You're impossible. And you love me anyway. I love you because of it, not in spite of it. He kisses me then, slow and deep and full of all the promises we made today and all the ones we'll make tomorrow and every day after that. Ready to go home, Mr. Torres Thompson? Ready, Mr. Torres Thompson. As we drive away from the chapel, still in our wedding clothes, heading back to our little apartment with the terrible plumbing and the perfect life we built together, I think about everything that brought us to this moment. The bullying that taught us both about resilience. The tutoring sessions that showed us we could be partners. The first kiss that changed everything. The public declaration that made us a team. The harassment that made us stronger. The love that conquered it all. Mason reaches over and takes my hand, running his thumb over my new wedding ring. I love you, Alex. I love you too, Mason. Forever and always. Forever and always. Outside, the sun is setting, painting the sky in shades of orange and pink, just like it had on that first night when Mason walked into my car after our initial tutoring session, and I realized I was falling for my former bully. Some people say that high school sweethearts don't last, that teenage love is just infatuation that fades with time. Those people have never seen what Mason and I have built together. They've never felt the kind of love that starts with forgiveness, grows through understanding, and flourishes in partnership. They've never experienced the joy of marrying your best friend, your greatest love, and your perfect match all wrapped up in one incredible person. As we pull into our driveway, I see Biscuit's face pressed against the window, tail wagging furiously because his dads are home. Inside, there are wedding gifts to open, thank you notes to write, and a honeymoon to pack for. But first, there's just this. Mason's hand in mine, our rings catching the last light of the day, and the absolute certainty that we are exactly where we belong. Some love stories end with the couple riding off into the sunset. Ours end with us coming home, together, married, and ready for whatever adventures await us. The boy who used to be my bully became my tutor, then my boyfriend, then my partner, and now my husband. And every single step of that journey led us here, to this moment, to this happiness, to this love that will last forever. Sometimes the best love stories start with the worst first impressions. Sometimes the person who challenges you the most is the one who completes you perfectly. And sometimes the bully in your hallway is actually the love of your life in disguise. Our story started with hate, but it's ending with the deepest, truest, most beautiful love I've ever known. And honestly, I can't wait to see what happens next. If this story made your heart flutter and reminded you that love can bloom in the most unexpected places, please subscribe for more heartwarming LGBTQ plus romance stories. Hit that notification bell and share this video with someone who needs to believe in true love again. What was your favorite moment from Alex and Mason's journey? Did you cry during the wedding vows like I did while writing them? Let me know in the comments below. New romantic stories drop every Tuesday and Friday. From enemies to lovers, friends to soulmates, and everything in between. Because everyone deserves a love story as beautiful as Alex and Mason's. Thank you for following along on this incredible journey. Until next time, keep believing in love.